Today, I'm talking to Richard Wain of View Digital about the work we did with them on their carbon reduction plan. Hi, Richard. Could you tell us a bit about what View Digital does?
Hi, yeah, of course. So, View Digital are a B Corp certified digital marketing agency. We do all things digital marketing. So, a lot of our work revolves around websites. That's designing, building, supporting, maintaining, uh, building campaigns around and anything you can think of. Also, digital strategy. So when it comes to supporting businesses to both develop and evolve their digital marketing strategies. We do a lot of what we call discovery work, which is basically sort of face-to-face workshops, working through uh, building an effective strategy.
Sounds fascinating. And can you tell us a bit about why you decided to do a carbon reduction plan?
Yeah, absolutely. There's sort of multi-layered answers to that question. On one level, as part of the B Corp certification, we need to be able to prove that we're doing things, and so there's sort of a certification angle to it for us, which is that we want to be able to demonstrate that we have a carbon reduction plan in order to get that certification. But way beyond that, I mean, for quite a few years now, we've felt so View is 15 years ish old. And for a long while, we've been trying to find ways to do business better. And our feeling, myself and my business partner, Dom Cooper, is that even though we're a small business, there are many small businesses. And in a sense, our impact from an emissions perspective is very small. The impact that we can have in terms of behavior and in terms of storytelling, particularly as a marketing agency, is actually much bigger. And so us doing a carbon reduction plan and having a story to tell around emissions, that feels important. And whether or not the impact of what we do to reduce our emissions is significant locally or globally doesn't really matter too much to us. What matters more is to be able to talk about it and to be able to hopefully take other businesses along with us, or at least sort of spread the message about the fact that this is something that should be sort of celebrated as part of running a business well.
Yeah, that's actually really important because although people often think it's all about big business, around about half of the business-related emissions are actually from small businesses. So although your contribution might feel small, actually we need all the small businesses to do this, and it all adds up. And of course, you being able to do that storytelling is a really important element in that. So yeah, so I think it's vital to do that. That's great. So so what sort of things were you trying to achieve from the exercise before you kind of got in touch with us? What's in your mind?
So the biggest challenge for us around this, and it remains a challenge, but we've certainly moved forward a long way in the last year, is around scope 3 and our supply chains, because pretty much everything we do is digital, and pretty much all of our suppliers are one way or another US based digital companies of one sort or another, and there isn't necessarily the data available, or we haven't had time to dig into the data that is available to really make informed choices around our supply chains in relation to emissions. It's a difficult thing to do, and almost all of our emissions sit there. So we've worked for the last 4 5 years plus, I think it's 5 years now, to try and bring down our scope 1 and 2 to the point where our scope 1 and 2 really are negligible. And I'm delighted by that, but our scope 3 emissions have never been accurately, even vaguely accurately clear to us. And we've always been aware that's the most significant chunk of our emissions. So it sort of felt like a we're playing a game, but we don't have, we don't really have the data to do it properly. And so that's the key challenge for us is, okay, what is actually going on here outside of our direct emissions, because it's never been clear.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a common problem. And just for anybody watching who's not familiar with the terminology, I'll just do a quick explainer. So the scope 1 and 2 emissions that Rich is talking about relate to the emissions arising from the operations of the business. And then scope 3 is everything that happens outside of the business, but as a consequence of the things the business does. So that might be emissions in your supply chain, the things that you buy and the services that you buy in. It might be business travel, it might be employees commuting, it might be the impacts of your products and services. So, and as Richard says, very, very common that is the bulk of emissions, but it's also the most difficult to get a handle on. So how did Go Climate Positive help you get a handle on those challenging scope 3 emissions?
I think that there's a couple of different things that Go Climate Positive were able to do for us that we haven't necessarily seen before. So one of those was to really kind of go into a little bit of depth in terms of identifying and considering the emissions of individual suppliers. So while we've had sort of estimates for scope 3 overall in the past, we haven't really drilled down into, okay, so how does that break down? What does that actually look like? For us, we have a whole lot of hosting suppliers, and we have no idea what proportion of our emissions relates to the actual hosting of sites. No idea. So we now have something of an idea. We have a breakdown. It's based on figures that are they're averages, they're sort of sector averages, but that's another thing that you've done brilliantly for us, which is to really explain the data. Where is this data come from? Where is it likely to be more or less accurate, and why? I originally come from a statistics background. I did a degree in statistics, so I understand statistics, and I've never felt comfortable that the data that I'm looking at is accurate enough for me to be able to tell an accurate story, or at least that I can tell a story about why this number is this number and not that number. And so there was something about the understanding of the data and something about the pragmatism that that you brought to the process that's allowed us to really just understand, okay, this is where the emissions are coming from, and this is where we should concentrate our efforts going forward.
Amazing, thank you. So how do you reflect on kind of the progress you've made so far, and what do you think's coming next?
I think the progress we've made has been great. I think we've managed to engage the team in thinking about this stuff. That's like a massive thing, even for us with a small team. We can, we speak together regularly. We know each other well, but we all have different priorities and different things going on. Being able to really focus minds on, okay, where might we be able to make some changes? That's taken a little while. It's always been a passion of mine to think about this stuff, but not necessarily everyone else's. So there's been a lot of progress there. We have, as I say, managed to really reduce some of our direct emissions. There've been a lot of behavior change around, simple things like we've incentivized the team to move to renewable energy tariffs, all kinds of different things that people have really bought into, and that's been great. It's a good sort of journey to be on, and then we understand things so much better. We've got better data. We've got a plan that feels like it's actionable, and that makes a huge difference for us. It means that we know exactly what we need to do in the next year.
Fantastic. So what was it like working with Go Climate Positive?
Hi, it's been a real pleasure. Steph is very easy to work with and to chat away about this stuff. Obviously, incredibly knowledgeable, and as I've said, understands the the data, what the limitations of the data are, what the kind of um, options that we have for improving that data over time. All of these little nuances that are really critical, I think, for telling a story that feels um, like it's true, but also for us actually making a difference to anything. So a really easy process. The systems have been fantastic to work with, and really great people.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you. So, $1 million question: would you recommend Go Climate Positive to other businesses?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've worked with a couple of different organisations in this area, and everyone we've worked with has always been good and competent. But I've really felt like this year we've been able to push on, and I think partly that's down to Go Climate Positive really understanding small businesses and understanding the benefit of small businesses getting involved in doing this kind of work.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you, Richard. It's been really lovely talking to you today, and thank you very much indeed.
No problem at all. Thank you.